Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Believe it or not, people, this is our second go round of recording this one because we actually started this and I forgot to press record. So we go again. It's part 5 of the 4-day West Indian Championship preview series, and we are looking at the Leeward Island Hurricanes. Some of you will be glad because I think when we're usually on our Twitter handle at Caribbean Cricket, some of you often say there's too much focus on the big nations in cricket, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad, Jamaica, etc. What about the Leeward? What about the Windwards? And let's have more focus on them. And rightly so, because often it seems like that region of the Caribbean is treated like a bit of an afterthought in kind of all of the big chat in cricket. Someone once said to me, you can't have a strong West Indies team without a strong Leeward Islands team. So we will get into that. We will get into that today. But Santoki, who have we got as the expert with us to delve into the Leeward Islands?
Yeah, we've got a special guest as expert, someone who's actually played for the Leeward Islands. So our first expert who's played at a professional level. Some of you may know him as the son of Sir Vivian Richards. He scored 319 in 2003 against the US Virgin Islands, which is the highest recorded score in the Leeward Islands. So it's a pleasure to welcome Sir Marley Richards onto the show. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you. It's an joy to be here. Pleasure seeing the podcast, and now I feel I arrived, guys. I'm looking forward to having an interesting discussion about Leeward Islands cricket, like you say. Marshall at times just a little bit overlooked, but we've still made a massive contribution to West Indian cricket over the years, especially in the heyday and the golden years, if you want to say that, about West Indies cricket. So I thought having a great discussion with you and Santoki here today.
Most definitely. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Marley. And as you say, we'll get right into it because, of course, as we're recording this, we are deep into day 3 of the first round of the 4-day championship. Leeward Islands are currently 274 for 7 against Barbados. They lead by 139 runs. This is in their second innings. So we could be in for a bit of an exciting finish in that game. And certainly the Leewards have probably played better than some would have given them a chance of doing so against the powerhouse Barbados team. But first things first, before we get into that, let's look at the Leeward Islands team. Jamar Hamilton, captain. Rakheem Cornwall, vice-captain. Devon Thomas, Monstin Hodge, Amir Jangu, Kieran Powell, Colin Archibald, Terence Ward, Jeremiah Lewis, Kacey Carty, Ross Powell, Nino Henry, Kofi James, Daniel Duram, and Kian Pemberton. Santoki, it's not. I was about to say it's not as weak a side as people might expect, which is doing a disservice to the Leeward Islands. But what I mean by that is there are plenty of current West Indian players or former West Indian players in that team. A Rakheem Cornwall, a Kieran Powell, a Devon Thomas, even a Kacey Carty, who was recently named in the Island series as a reserve. So it's almost like a team with current players and some promising youngsters. Santoki, what's your initial thought?
Yeah, I think it's a solid squad. As you said, you've got some headline names: Jamar Hamilton, Rakheem Cornwall, Kieran Powell, who's always in and out of the West Indies side, but always scores runs at regional level. But it'd be good to ask Marley first, who are the names who a lot of people won't know coming into this Leeward Islands squad, young players that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, you guys mentioned the Kacey Carty, but I would say Kofi James. He's not in the 11 here in this match, but he's a young player here from Antigua. quite prolific locally. He's had some very good scores sub-regionally as well for the Antigua team. And but when he gets his opportunity, I think he'll show the talent that he has. Also, along with the Ross Powell, you know, we saw him have some good performances in the previous Super 40 here in Antigua. He's quite good at the top of the order. Got the team off to great starts, good starts actually. He's been a player who's been quite, you know, he's known about in the region for a few years since his under-19s, but now it's now for these young players to not only show the potential but fulfill it, you know, and because it not only serves Leeward Islands cricket, but it makes for a more competitive competition here in the West Indies, which only serves to help the West Indian cricket team.
Yes, it's interesting you say that line about not fulfilling the potential, because the West Indies as a region is, I feel like it's different in its cricket development to some of the other major international cricket powerhouses. So someone like a Kacey Carty, who you kind of referenced first. Kacey, we all know he was part of the World Cup winning squad in 2016. We're now in 2022, and Kacey hasn't had the development that someone like a Shimron Hetmeyer has had. But arguably, based on how Kacey went in that under-19 World Cup, you would have said that he had the raw talent to be further ahead in his career than he currently is. And obviously, in the Super 50 last year, I think he hit his maiden century. I think it was in that Super 50 last year. Would you say that
Against
you're surprised?
Yeah.
Would you say that you're surprised that Kacey hasn't kicked on as much as he should, or do you think he's about par to where he should be?
Well, like you say, considering we've lost almost 2 years with COVID out of the cricketing schedule here in the West Indies, and also in the Leewards, we haven't played as much cricket as we're accustomed to. You know, they haven't played the sub-regional 3-day competition for over 10 years. And St. Maarten, they don't play red ball cricket. It's generally just white ball cricket. So apart from Antigua, which plays red ball cricket, most of the other islands, I don't think any of the other islands in the Leewards actually play red ball cricket. So in terms of preparation and his exposure to top level talent, he just hasn't had it. But we've seen what he could do, like you say, with that maiden 100 against Barbados in that Super 50. He's always had that the natural talent, but the system, and also with the COVID pandemic, maybe if he could have played 2 years, he would have been further on. So I mean, but he's still showing like he's just on the cusp of kicking on, you know. So hopefully he's working hard, and the results will be there to show.
Yeah, so let's talk about more of the household names. So we've got the headline today: Devon Thomas scoring the first century of the 2022 regional competition. He's someone you've played with. Are you surprised in terms of Devon Thomas that he's never made it to Test level? Do you feel he's someone who had the potential to make it to international level in red ball cricket?
Oh, no doubt, you know, but at times I think the mental side of the game has let Devon down. You know, he's had all the natural talent in the world. I actually have known Devon since he was 12 years old, and he's been playing with seniors since he's about 11 or 12 years old with men, you know, so he's always been ahead of the curve. You saw him make the West Indies under-19s. He played that World Cup with Virat Kohli. And then he also went on to play for the Windies, made the World Cup squad. So he's always had no talent, but the mental side of the game has always let him down. But at this stage, he seems to be maturing, you know, quite nicely. He seems to have his exposure. You know, he was also recently in the West Indies one-day setup. So I think the exposure to that setup has also just given him an extra impetus to put in these performances. And it's always been a question of consistency with Devon. You know, he'll score 100 here, and then you not hear about him again for a little bit. But he's been more consistent in the last few years of competition. Just hope he keep it up or even get even better, because like Santoki said earlier, chances are up for grabs in this West Indian team.
So hold on, let me jump in there. Because I'm putting this to both of you. Santoki, I guess you go first. Because we don't have that many rounds before the England squad is selected, arguably, if all is fair, anyone who puts up runs should be called into the England squad. So let me break the middle order is open. Okay, this is just me saying this. Arguably, Chase should be gone. Arguably, Hope should be gone. So that's a 4 and a 5, right? Or a 4 and a 6, whatever, within the test squad. Santoki, would you say a 58 and 117 in round 1 is enough to guarantee Devon Thomas a place? Or is the fact that he's 32, does that work against him in terms of he's too old now, so he can't get a chance?
I don't think it guarantees him a place in the West Indies side. We know that often if you score runs in regional, it doesn't mean you make it to test level. I think as well, it's important that Desmond Haynes and Ronnie Sarwan as selectors have said they may potentially go with potential over stats. So I think essentially what they're hinting at is that they might go for more youthful players who might be able to adjust better to test cricket. So that the age could hold against Devon Thomas. But I think he's, as you said, he scored 58 and 112. So in the first match of the regional season, highest scorer you'd think for this round. So for me, he's put himself in the running, definitely. Whether he does make it, there's a lot of other factors going on for West Indies selection. Whether he does make it is another question, but he's certainly in the mix, as you said, Mash, with that middle order lacking stability at the moment. It'd be interesting to hear what Marley says about it, though.
Well, I think age is actually an area in this situation. You know, if you think about Nkrumah Bonner, when he actually came into the team, how old he was, I think he's roughly around the same age, 32 or so. Shamar Brooks, you know, who's still in and about in the setup. So I think, I don't think 150 would guarantee him. I agree with Santoki. He'd have to go and get another 100 in this second round. I mean, in order to really put pressure on these selectors to get him into this squad to play against England here for that, at least to be in the squad here in Antigua for that first test.
Interested. I mean, I tried to go to bat there for Leeward Island fans, but you know, but Marley said, Devon, you need another 100 at least. At least to put yourself in. But I get it. I understand totally where Marley is coming from.
Because this is the thing, and this is a guy. I'm marking him hard. You know why? Because I've known him, and I know he's always had the talent to be there. But it's been consistency that's always held him back. You know, he's got the talent. He's just as talented a batter as anyone in the West Indies. But it's the consistent runs that have been lacking from Devon Thomas. But he looks like the penny has dropped. So I mean, it's not beyond him to go in this next game and get another 100 as well. So I'm just saying that's what it's going to take from me, in my opinion, for him to really stamp and push away into this West Indian team.
It'd be interesting to know, Marley, do you think, as we said at the top of the show, Leeward Islands often aside, not talked about in discussions about regional cricket. Do you think players for the Leeward Islands have to put up more runs to get themselves noticed at international level? Then say, if a Devon Thomas hit 2 centuries for Barbados, do you think you have to work harder in Leeward Islands to make the West Indies setup?
Well, that's always the general feeling here in the Leewards, whether that's a chip on the shoulder, whether it's a negative or I mean, it just depends on how you use it. But it's definitely something that's spoken about in cricketing circles here. You almost have to do twice as much as the so-called big islanders. But I don't even like saying that because of you know, the insularity and what's actually needed for us to get back to the top. It shouldn't be big island, small island. It should just be based on merit, you know. But in the past, it's been that way. There was a time in West Indies cricket where players from the Leewards and the Windwards were just completely overlooked. whether they scored for the most runs or took the most wickets. You know, so yeah, that feeling has generally just grown over the years, and it's definitely a feeling of you've got to do twice as much. So that's why I'm saying to Devon, you want to be in that squad in that first test, go out in the next game and get another 100.
I'm gonna ask a question here, Santoki, because when we did Guyana, I asked you a question about Versamy Permo and is he in pole position to be if England, sorry, if we go with a spinner and we don't do the Roston Chase thing and make him the part-time spinner and we actually go with a frontline spinner. So when we did Guyana, Santoki, I said to you, is Permo in pole position? And obviously we discussed that. But let's talk on Rakheem, Santoki and Marley. Oh, boy, I don't know. Has Rakheem done enough to cement himself in the West Indies team? Does he still need to? In fact, it's not does he still need to. What does Rakheem need to do to cement himself as the frontline spinner? Because, okay, so in the first innings for Barbados, Rakheem was the top bowler for the Leewards, 4 for 99. And similar to Versamy Permo, we know what these guys are going to do at the domestic level. We know Rakheem's going to take wickets. So how does a Rakheem Cornwall get 100% faith put in him to actually be told, you are the frontline spinner? If West Indies are going to play a spinner, it is you. Santoki, I'll go to you first.
Boy, I think West Indies, the sort of mentality with West Indies is they never really put 100% faith in spinners. We've seen players given 1 or 2 opportunities and then dropped. It's very hard for a spinner to get consistent chances in this West Indies side. We've seen it with Nikita Miller, Versamy Permo, Jamal Warrican, Rakheem Cornwall. So I don't really know. I'd imagine Rakheem Cornwall would have to do more with the bat to be considered more as an all-rounder, similar to Roston Chase, to have a consistent place in this side. I don't think, as a specialist spinner in the West Indies, I don't think there's enough trust for selectors to say to you, you're 100% going to be in this side for every test match. And so I think for Rakheem, he's done everything spin-wise, but I think he'll probably need to do more with the bat, performances with the bat, to work his way into the side as an all-rounder who can spin.
Marley, where do you stand on Rakheem Cornwall, the Antiguan?
My good friend, Big Jim, as we call him, you know, played quite a lot of cricket with him as well, you know, for in terms of cementing his place, I've got to be honest, I don't think he has, Marshall. We saw the start that he made against Afghanistan down there in India. Quite helpful conditions. I was quite disappointed with his performances in Sri Lanka, you know. For once, conditions were fully in his favor and he didn't bowl with that. He doesn't seem to be spinning the ball like he was before. I'm not sure the reasons for that. He's got massive hands. He really gets a massive grip on the ball. But I think he's suffering from a few technical issues with bowling, and the results just haven't been there. You know, he was picked as the frontline spinner going into Sri Lanka, and I think he's just been asked probably by Versamy Permo, considering the performances that Permo had in that final test. And I think in terms of off spin, it's between Ross and Rakheem Cornwall, because that's a whole conundrum with him not batting, not fulfilling his primary role as a, you know, going back to, he just had nailed the opportunities he's had since that awesome debut against Afghanistan.
Yeah, and that's interesting, Santoki, because that then leads us to the conundrum of West Indies domestic cricket in general. Because if you already dominate at the domestic level, what do you do? What do you do? Because it is completely feasible.
I mean,
sorry, Marley, go. Yeah. So
no, go on. Sorry, no, you're right.
Oh yeah. So the point I was making there is what do you do? Because you're almost asking there for the selectors to put a long period of faith in a player because you know that there's nothing new they can tell you at the domestic level. Like Kieran Powell, for example, is another example. He could go on to score some runs for Leeward Islands because that's what he does at the domestic level. But then what do you do, Santelki?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's something Nikita Miller talked on about, sort of raising the standards of the regional game. Because at the moment, you've got players who sort of pile on runs or score big wickets, but then they can't perform at international level. And that's sort of for Cricket West Indies to try and work out how you bridge that gap, how you develop players. Obviously, A tours is something is discussed, but they cost a lot of money. We've had the pandemic; those have been hard. So at the moment, there's a big gap between international standard and regional standard in Caribbean cricket at the moment.
So Marley, we come back to you because as much as we've spoken about some of the names in this squad, etc., are there any players missing that you thought, whether you thought they should have been there or had a good shout to be in this squad? Are there any names that people should know about? You're like, I'm surprised they haven't made it for this 4-day squad.
Well, to be honest, the way Leeward Islands cricket was set up was these squads were selected based off of sub-regional tournaments. So you'll have Antigua, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Nevis, the Virgin Islands, St. Martin, Montserrat, if I said Montserrat already. But yeah, all playing 3-day, 1-day, and T20 cricket. And from these tournaments, the best players are selected, and they would make the Leeward Islands Hurricanes team. But we haven't had these tournaments in the last couple of years, you know. So there are young players around the region just waiting for their opportunity to showcase that talent, but they just haven't been able to. If you see what I'm saying, so it's really hamstrung the region in terms of unearthing the new talent. But what we have seen is that. In the previous, just concluded West Indies Under-19 World Cup, the West Indies Under-19 team had 4 players from the Leewards, 3 from Nevis and 1 from St. Martin again. So I mean, it's up now. It's up to the authorities, the selectors, or whoever, to accommodate these players and get them involved in this. I think a little bit of fast tracking has to be done because we haven't played these tournaments. So we have to fast track these players into the setup just to see what they're actually made of.
It's interesting you say that because Windward obviously have called up Teddy Bishop straight away into their squad. Yeah, would you have liked to have seen? Go on. Sorry, go on, Marley.
No, you're right. Yeah, Teddy Bishop being called up. There's another little batter. He didn't make as many runs as he would have liked, but he's from Barbados as well. The wicketkeeper batter, Rivaldo Clark. He's got a massive future. You know, you'd like to see a little bit of forward thinking, a bit of forethought. You know, where people with a bit of vision actually think, you know what, let's try and fast track a few of these players. Onaje Amory, the off spinner from Nevis, who had quite a good West Indies Under-19 World Cup as well. You know, so there's quite a few guys in the region, young guys, who are just knocking about, but just need the opportunity to actually showcase their talent in competitive cricket.
Santelki, sorry.
Yeah, so we asked this question to all our experts, Marley. Looking at all the squads and all the sides, who do you think? What teams do you predict are going to finish in the top 2 of the regional table come the end of the season?
That's a good one.
Feel free to say Leeward Islands.
Looking at this Leeward Islands team when it was first selected.
Yeah.
No. 1 second. When this Leeward Islands team was first selected, I looked at it and I thought, this team has actually got pretty decent batting for this level, right? So from that perspective, you know, you mentioned the Kacey, Carty knocking on the West Indian door, Devon Thomas in good form, Rakheem Cornwall with with international experience, Jamar Hamilton, Kieran Powell. And I looked at this team and I thought, this team should be knocking on the door for the top 3 at the very least. It's a little weak in the fast bowling department, I must say. That's a department where they're going to struggle a little bit, just based on the composition of this team. Just another wicket taker. You know, you've got young Archibald, who's actually quite a good prospect. Colin Archibald, left arm seam, quite a good prospect. But and Rakheem, but they just need another fast bowler, just that would just take them over the edge and really make them contenders, in my opinion, for this title. But I'd say Barbados as defending champions. That's one team. But you know, some people say Trinidad, some people say Guyana. I know Guyana are going to be pretty competitive, but I think honestly, looking at this Leeward Islands team, it should finish in the top 3 at the very least.
Well, hold on a minute, Santoki, because when we did Jamaica, Jerome said Jamaica's finishing in the top 3. And everyone, Trinidad, Barbados, and Guyana experts said they're finishing in the top 2. So someone's got to come last. We can't all be finishing in the top 2 or top 3. But no, I see where Marley's coming from, actually, because. And that's actually an area we didn't talk about. That's the fact that Leeward don't look as strong as other sides when it comes to the fast bowling. But yeah, certainly in terms of the batting, I totally get Marley's point. So we've got Marley saying Leeward Islands to come at least 3rd. Santoki, you agreeing with that?
You know what? I think they definitely got the potential. For me, Barbados and Guyana are the strongest squads, but after that, anyone could come in the top 3 from my perspective. So it'd be interesting to see how the match finishes against Barbados.
Yeah. So at the time of recording, people, like I say, it's actually stumps now on day 3. So it will go to a 4th day. Leeward Islands lead Barbados by 142 runs. And to be honest, that won't be as straightforward a chase on day 4. Do not be surprised if that game actually ends up going down to the wire. But Marley, thank you very, very much for coming on to give us your expertise with regards to Leeward Islands cricket. And we're hoping that you will come on again to the CCP podcast when we do some more regional deep dives into cricket across the Caribbean region.
Yeah, thank you, guys. You know, I love talking cricket. I can tell you guys are actually very passionate about West Indian cricket, and it's a joy to see. Just keep up the good work, and I'll definitely be back sometime soon.
Love that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's part 5. That's been the Leeward Island Hurricanes. Leave the comments and questions below. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.